This is a specific message, okay? I'm hearing the term short fuse. This is someone who's really had to work on their temperament, if you will. But the reason is because when they were younger, they weren't like everybody else around them. They weren't like their family, just their environment. So their emotions as a child were not understood, okay? And this is someone who's had to really learn how to understand themselves in an environment where they just, I'm hearing didn't fit in, so maybe that they felt like that, but they certainly were there to create a change, okay? So I'm hearing like that cycle breaker energy, you know, but definitely someone with this death and rebirth portal who's kind of, I feel like has been through many transformations, because I'm seeing it's not even themselves that they've been transforming, it's been, you know, like generations even. And I think that actually they've had to really mature. King of Swords energy, air sign, they have had to really mature to understand themselves in a way. And it's felt really like he's on the mountain by himself, right? Felt really by himself. You know, no one else has understood the journey, right? Not the people around this energy, that's for sure, okay? So yes, other people who were, I think that someone's had to really do a lot of it by themselves, okay? This is someone who's really understanding themselves without being put into like a box or a label. I think too often, because they're so misunderstood, it was like they were boxed into like these labels and categories that actually weren't true. They just weren't understood. It wouldn't shock me if this is somebody who's had to go to therapy, but they weren't the person who should have been to therapy. Should have been the people, you know, that were around who didn't bother, right? 9 of Cups, High Priestess. They're finally understanding. This is definitely something to do with family. I'm hearing specifically the word outcast. Someone's finally understanding themselves. It's quite a journey when you realise that actually you're not like the people around you. Then you have to learn how to, you know, to connect to the right people, if you will. There's a reason for everything. And sometimes you're connected to, you know, I always say family are some of the most karmic connections you can have sometimes. And sometimes it truly is about you bringing in that different energy. It's not about disconnecting or cutting off. It truly is about learning and teaching connection in a new way, even to your family, even to parents. Don't get me wrong, sometimes, you know, you'll disconnect from family, of course, okay? Knight of Wands, Queen of Cups, and the 10 of Cups. Okay, I'm just getting this energy that this is someone who really hasn't, because they were so misunderstood. It's like this short fuse I was hearing, this temperament, this energy that they have within them, is kind of being channeled in a way that was just it's like they want this family, they want this is what I'm hearing, they want this like happy home family environment is what I'm hearing. They've always wanted that, but they've not known how to handle those emotions, right? So they've ended up kind of the excitement, the passion they have for it is kind of being misdirected, if you will. This is what someone's finally understanding. They're delving into their emotions, right? Before they find it, you know, they feel like they're drowning because, you know, they've been told, you know, your temperament, all these kind of things. But they actually, as they're understanding their emotions, they're transforming through this, right? And it's like a rebirth of self. Look at this. Oh my God, so many downloads are coming in. It wouldn't shock me if this is someone who is in the head a lot, right? It could be someone who's an overthinker. I've heard over-processor, over-analyzer, but there's a difference between like going into detail and getting lost in that detail versus actually trying to understand the situation. I think someone's really trying to understand a lot around them. I also feel like this is someone who wants to, there's some kind of communication that they want to offer someone. I have a feeling they might be connected to this Two of Cups. I have a feeling they might be connected to this Queen of Cups. So they're King of Swords and that's a Queen of Cups. You know, they've not understood how to handle that emotion, right? They've been very much more in their logic. But I feel like there's this energy of actually utilising their logic in such a way that they can finally communicate. Yeah, look at that. They're understanding their heartbreak now. They're understanding, you know, got the High Priestess and the Hierophant. That's a power match in terms of these cards right now on the table, okay? The more they're understanding their unique personal journey, the more they're feeling so much more liberated. They're not feeling like all the things that they were told they were or made to feel or believe over the years, okay? Yeah, look at that. They're going to do things differently. This is not someone who's going to repeat the same cycles that they came from. They're going to do things differently. Yeah, they're going to there's a lot they haven't spoken of, that the heartbreak that they experienced. I think that they might have experienced a lot when they were younger, that they just never spoke on. Okay, they might have seen themselves as an empath, you know, highly sensitive to emotion. I think this is definitely someone who's very intuitive, but hasn't really acted on that so much, you know. It's like goes on behind the scenes kind of thing. Look at this, the Empress. So I'm getting two things. Okay, this could be somebody who very excited to move towards this like divine feminine energy is coming through. Okay, I think that they might kind of still be trying to work out this energy that they feel. So like this, I'm getting this kind of intense kind of passion, right? This like desire. They're trying to understand that better so they can harness that better and not just like be led by that, which has happened in the past. But I'm also getting the energy that there's a feminine energy who's really had to work on her masculine energy. She had a lot of detached, emotionally unavailable masculine energies around her. Okay, so that's interesting. But could be, let's see. 9 of Swords. I've instantly heard realization. Someone's having some serious realizations about how they treated this feminine energy who's, 6 of Cups in the past, who truly was just in her heart space. And they didn't understand the 6 of Cups, 2 of Cups, the Fool, the Emperor. Yeah, someone's having some realizations here, okay. And it could be that this feminine energy did allow that masculine energy in because of the experiences she's had with masculine energies, you know, that detached, emotionally unavailable kind of energy. So she's just almost like enabled it, if you will. So she's definitely had to strengthen her boundaries. Oof. 5 of Cups and 5 of Wands. There's been a lot of regret around this kind of this foundation that somebody truly could have had. They're seeing things so much more clearly. I also feel like there's a feminine energy who's got high, like her third eye is like, wow, very intuitive, very tapped in, on point, okay. But also this masculine energy feels like, I feel like there's been a lot of loss. There could have actually been a family unit that they had to really like, you know, let go of, or whatever happened there. Like there's been serious disagreements, arguments, kind of like butting heads, you know, not finding alignment and, you know, common ground, if you will. But also kind of this energy of the sun's just coming out even more now. So I feel like that's what's going to happen. I think someone's finally releasing the emotions that they were feeling when it came to like family. But also I think there's something about there's something in their mind where they could have had a family with this feminine energy as well. And that's something that they're regretful over. It ended up turning into, I'm hearing like a battle. Definitely a fat masculine energy who's really like guarded with them. I say guarded, it's like they're overprotective of their emotions because of what they've been through. And like I said before, they've just held it all in, right? It's been like happening behind the scenes. It feels like their emotional capacities are really allows them to connect even deeply to their higher self, right? Because everything they've been through, it's been for a reason, a higher purpose. And now they're finally, as they're clearing through, their channel is opening, right? Judgment card, yeah, they're having some serious awakenings. They're taking their time doing this, as they're understanding a lot. They're having the conversations that they need to, right? Before they launch, I'm hearing that word specifically, before they launch forward. Again, it's that energy, like that fiery energy, that passionate energy, you know, someone's really, I think that for a long time it was suppressed in their body. It might be somebody who's had like physical symptoms as a result of this, okay? But certainly someone who's awakening to their higher self and therefore their higher path, okay? Again, Ace of Wands did want to come out there. So I think, I just feel like someone's finally seeing like this, I'm hearing light at the end of the tunnel, so maybe that resonates, but definitely like they're seeing the possibility at the end, and this is something that they're really excited about and like excited to move towards. Yeah, to even think that, oh my God, this is like, that could be my dream come true kind of energy, which is really beautiful. But again, it's really high level, this is, you know, the Hierophant. I'm getting, again, I'm getting higher level commitments as well, but to self. Yeah, look at this, ego driven, massively ego driven. I think they weren't speaking the truth. They weren't. I think that they allowed this pain and grief that they experienced from such a young age to fuel this kind of, I'm hearing like a masquerade. So maybe there was somebody who had a lot of like masks they were wearing, just ego, to bravado, to come off a certain way so that the hurt beneath the surface, they didn't have to address it, okay? They wanted to start new. They want to start you. They don't want to carry that around anymore. They're realizing they don't have to, which is the biggest thing, you know. For the longest time, they probably just thought, oh, this is how it has to be. You know, they've been guarded to this divine feminine energy. Okay, so the cards that fell to the floor were the Emperor, Six of Cups, and the Tower. Okay, so this is definitely someone who's had some serious realizations about, I think it's a situation of the past, truly. And they're understanding how actually it's within their capacity, it's them who has the power to take that action to clear whatever this is. And I think they have been clearing a lot internally, moving past this this energy of being unable to kind of, I think they're in a divine feminine energy, to be honest, more than anything. They've been so cut off from that and guarded. But they want to, I'm getting instantly some kind of apology or just like an offer that's going to be way more stable and grounded, just to be able to move forwards. Yeah, 3 of Wands there. To be able to move forwards and without feeling the heavy burdens of what has gone, right? They want to turn that 10 of Wands into the 10 of Pentacles, right? They've been overcoming a lot to be able to finally access this lover's energy, the truth of their heart space, right? And the Fool at the bottom of the deck as well. It's like they found the light within. That's what I'm hearing. So through all the noise and everything they were told outside, then they're finally seeing themselves much more clearly. But not only their light, they're seeing their dark, their shadows clearly as well. And it's not something they're running from anymore. They're actually sitting with this, which is so important, which is why they're spending that time on the top of that mountain by themselves, right? True love, divine connection. So definitely I'm hearing divine partnership, where it's like, this desire for sacred union is a two-way thing, but you have to find that within yourself first, right? You have to find that balance of that kind of, this is my inner divine feminine and I'm okay with that and I'm going to accept that. I'm going to flow through that just as much as this is my inner divine masculine. I'm going to allow myself to really operate from a healthy space, not from everything that I've known that's been rude and unhealthy masculine, right? Give your relationship a chance. Chemistry, that's that chemistry energy. There's definitely kind of a magnetism, if you will, but they're, you know, past all of this current cycle of seeing beyond the stress, the hurt, the pain, the loss, right? There is this kind of energy of wanting to do things. My thought just completely went there, so I don't know if that's a message that doesn't want to come through yet or something. Pay attention to red flags. And someone has been letting their friends help them too much here, and that's the red flags, because, and it could just be voices around them, but for yourself, this is definitely someone who was probably had this like behavior where they were, you know, that impulsive kind of energy, almost like I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting fuckboy energies, that kind of, that could be any genders, right? But someone who really was outsourcing a lot. Love yourself first. Self-respect. There was no self-respect, truly. They didn't see themselves properly, so they weren't able to treat themselves as such, right? And we got the Emperor and the Empress here, worth waiting for, divine timing. So it is something that is kind of like high level aligned union, but it doesn't come without having to clear through reconciliation at the bottom of the deck. Interesting. So it doesn't come without having to clear through this, and I think this is the thing. So this is your soul person, and then reconciliation. I think there was a Tower here between these two. You know why? Because you both had wounds beneath the surface that needed to be surfaced and addressed, and you both kind of brought that out to each other to see what that truly was. You know, it was all beneath in the shadows. Maybe you thought you were at a healing point, because like I said, I think these two are both energies that were quite tapped in before they even met, you know, to a degree, but there was a lot that was still beneath the surface, especially for this masculine energy. Adjustments are required. Yeah, there's some changes that someone's making, or they're realizing they need to, you know, especially something to do with too many cards there, something about some kind of foundation. So again, family, could be business, maybe even their environment. Maybe they're tied to people in that environment that aren't healthy for this moving forwards, that are not aligned, right? Prosperity lies ahead. So it's confirmation. There is this beautiful energy, new romantic cycle begins, moving forwards. But I think someone's just kind of, as they're having the realizations, they're understanding how they need to treat themselves better and not to be led by all the external voices. A lot has been, I feel like they've been pulled here and there, you know, away from their internal alignment, okay? So take time to breathe out, bring love into the situation, okay? I think that's someone bringing love into they're understanding how to bring love into like this situation better than what happened in the past and what they allowed in the past. I think this could be someone who even wondered why they treated this feminine energy like this. Even they were probably like, well, I don't understand why I did that. So this is kind of the understanding, like they're understanding this now, not avoiding it. Okay, end of a tough cycle approaches, Capricorn energy, Aquarius energy, Taurus energy. Nothing will come of that situation. You and your loved ones are safe. So it's kind of like, you know, someone might be kind of reading in their mind, going over this, but there is this step, a win-win outcome is forecast. There is this kind of need to remember that if this is a divine connection which is coming through, then it's protected. But you've got to take the required steps, surrender to divine, take the required steps of taking accountability, of stepping in where you need to, you know. There's a lot of kind of, someone's really seeing themselves better than ever before. They're finally saying no to all the external that pulls on their energy. It could also be just external temptations, you know, like I said, they've got that kind of overly electric, overly excited, kind of passionate energy that I think has massively been their guard, but it also is something that this divine feminine energy has a massive boundary with now, because I think that she's learned this from the past situation. There's been, I think both have experienced heartbreak here, truly, which is why the time was needed for the healing to take place in a way that it's not just being masked, right? So it's really like these are two people who had to really face themselves. Satiety will teach you a lot about who you need to be, what you need to be doing, etc., etc. But it's all very conditioned, very norm, right? When you're on a divine journey, you're not going to fit those kind of requirements, those categories. If anything, you'll always feel so out of place with them. And so to even try to fit yourself in, it's just going to end up in this kind of messy situation. There's too many... I feel like I'm hearing specifically failed, so maybe that's something that someone resonates with, but it's like they've tried to gain like whatever it is they want to get to, but it's just not worked because it's not been in their alignment. It's been what everyone around them has been telling them they need to do, right? Take your time making the decision. They're finally understanding what it is for them to be happy now. It's not going to be in alignment with all these external voices. Admit the truth to yourself and act accordingly. That's the truth. To finally say, oh, that's not my truth. I have to accept my path. And the most liberating thing will be when they finally do that, and they finally see that. And you can even see that here with this like Hierophant. They're finally accepting this is their path, their higher level path, and this is where their true heart's desires lay. The fulfillment of that, right? And that's how they can move forwards towards that. Prayer will help this situation. And it did say win-win outcome is forecast. So it's kind of like someone's just, I think they're accepting it, but they are in their head a lot. So they need to be mindful of that, okay? Decide to be happy now, okay? Your home is protected by angels. So again, there's just something about, you know, if there is something to do with finances, like to pray about that as well. Like pay attention to your dreams. So someone could be getting a lot of downloads and messages in their dreams right now, especially with that High Priestess. That really feels like a strong one, especially to understand what's happening. You know, that your subconscious can really come through in your dream state, and it's kind of helping them to understand what's been beneath the surface for so long. You know, even your fears can come through in your dreams. Go forward fearlessly. This is what I feel like. That's such a God is in charge, such a positive message that they have got this beautiful win-win outcome moving forward. They just need to like release the fears that have been holding them in a place that, and a version of themselves that is not them, that isn't for them. And the more they continue to try, the more they're just going to experience that tower, which I think has fallen to the floor. It's fallen to the floor, okay? So there you go. I think that's finally been cleared, and nothing's going to come of the situation where they feel like, I think they're over-analysing in their mind, truly, especially when it comes to this feminine energy. They need to come back to themselves and reclaim their power, their energy, okay? Beautiful prosperity lies ahead. I mean, gosh, there's truly a connection here that is divinely aligned, but what they need to understand is they need to cut out the voices that have just kept them in a place, in a state of cut off from their truth, their emotions. Don't forget, divine masculine is divine truth, right? And then you find that inner balance, divine love and divine truth, divine feminine, divine masculine. You can really find that within you, and you can really bring that to each other. And I think that's the process that's currently taking place, okay? So there's something beautiful moving forwards, but I think that someone's just, I think right about now, very current energy, they're just going through this internal struggle, okay? But I do feel like there's you know, with this worth waiting for. I think it's just like you need to zone in on your own alignment, to really zone in on the I think that divine feminine specifically is something about you really staying in that space of compassion, right? Not, that doesn't mean you're walking mad. It just means that you allow yourself to be to treat yourself as a goddess that you are, to be seen as a goddess that you are, right? Not for external validation, but because actually you're following your divine alignment now. You're understanding that better. You're taking the steps required, right? By accessing that inner divine masculine. In divine connections, you truly have to go through so much struggle. I say struggle, but these are the kind of like what is in your contract, if you will, to overcome, right? And this is why you have to do that on your individual journeys, because a lot of karma. Together you will as well, because there's just going to be a lot of like just, you know, those are not the rules, you know, we're coming here to do something different, because you're bringing love to a place where everyone just wants to be conditioned into this, you know, boxes, categories, you know, control, you know what I mean? You guys are learning how to surrender to that, right? How to trust your divine alignment. So there's something about this where it's like you're actually doing exactly what you need to be doing, even if it doesn't feel like it. But just be mindful of, you know, that short fuse came through for a reason. I think that's why this King of Wands with this Three of Swords, you know, someone's really acted on that in the past, and I think they've really regretted it. And so be mindful of that and holding on those beautiful emotions, because they're here to help you ascend higher. Truly, that is your gateway, okay? So this is definitely a divine masculine energy who's really regretful about the past and how they acted. They walked away in the past, right? But right about now, they're balancing their head and their heart. They're closing out so many cycles that, well, they have been, and now it's kind of like they're ready to move forwards, but they're really consulting like some kind of higher level guidance here. It could be spiritual guidance, could even be like turning to religion or something, you know, along those lines, like even just the understanding of those to find some kind of answers. There's been a lot of third party influence here that they've had to really learn the truth about, but it's also something they're going to need to be truthful about as well, which is what kind of keeps them back, because it's like they were acting from a really, I'm going to say, emotionally immature space, which is like a space where they were making decisions that I don't think they're very proud of right now. They're really seeing themselves clearly. Could have been just silly little things, you know, online behaviors or whatever it is. Even the way they spoke about someone, this feminine energy, you know, they're going to, in order to move forward, they can see that they need to be very clear about this. They need to open up about this. And there's going to be need to really, I think someone's ego is going to have to really take a backseat for sure. And that's the problem here. I think someone's really struggled with that. But in order to get what they want, which is that beautiful Ten of Pentacles, that Ten of Cups, that complete and total abundance, happily ever after, if you will, this is what they're going to need to do. And they know this, okay? So they're just removing the binds within them and also these external energies to really step into that role and say, yes, I'm going to do this, right? Forward movement. But right, this is what Cancer season is right now. They're clearing through that, okay? Let me know if this message was for you. Sending love.